I would have talked to you, but
Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Smith Falls Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, September 2nd. I'm Councillor Jennifer Miller, and I'll be your chair this evening. Please pause and reflect as I read the land acknowledgement. On September 2nd, 2025, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all of our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. and I'm looking for someone to approve our agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that the September 2nd, 2025 Special Committee of the Whole meeting agenda be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none. We have no approval of minutes and no delegations. CAO Morris is away this evening. Do we have any directors' reports? No hands are going up, thank you. No committee of the whole consent reports and no in-camera sessions. So we're going to jump right into our priority items, starting with 10.1, Director McMunn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, members of council. So the first of two reports I have this evening is with respect to Confederation Bridge, so report number 2025-087. So this evening, I'm looking for direction from council with respect to the stone veneer, if you will, that will get applied to the two pedestals on each approach of the bridge. So there's two on the west side, two on the east side, where the timber glue lamb come down and they attach into a concrete portion of the footing abutment structure. And then those pedestals, they project up out of the ground. You can see on the picture on page number 1. They project out of the ground and they'll have a veneer stone cladding on them, if you will. So in the report, there's 3 different options for council's consideration. Option number 1 would have been the idea that originally Structurecraft was considering, albeit they've switched gears a little bit and they like option number 2. They think it suits the surrounding area a lot better. But what I wanted to note was, on page number 2, one of the bullet points I have here is within Structurecraft's original bid submission, they had an allowance in there of $25,000 for this work to take place. That was premised on Western BC market rates at the time. Of course, the Ontario market's different than out west, and they're finding that a lot of the pricing that they're receiving locally or in this region is quite a bit more inflated than it is in the compared to Western prices. So with option number 1, the quote that they've got from a local mason was $42,000 and change. So they're if council is considering option number 1, they're willing to absorb that difference, understanding that, you know, it's not the town's fault. They're not coming back to the trough, if you will, looking for more money. They bid the project, they're respective of that, and they will eat that delta of $18,000 for option number 1. So there'd be no additional cost to the town. The same stands for option number 2. This is actually their preference, all the way from Jerry, who's the owner of Structurecraft. He's a PN. He's been doing this for many, many years. Timber structure, buildings in of themselves, and then bridges as well. I'll note that bridges for Structurecraft is not necessarily their bread and butter. They do more buildings, but Jerry really likes to work on these bridge projects. So he would like to see option number 2, which is kind of reflective of their the renderings that they had originally provided. It looks very similar to option number 2, being a fieldstone veneer. I'll note that this fieldstone veneer is a natural product. It would get shipped to site from a quarry, not indifferent to option number 1. Okay, so none of this is a man-made product. It's all natural stone. Option number 2 being the fieldstone veneer. On page 3 of 4, you'll see where, again, the Ontario market was quite a bit more than their original bid submission at $57,000. So again, it's a premium over option number 1. The delta is about $33,000. And again, they're willing to absorb that because Jerry, the owner of Structurecraft, would really, really like to see this product applied to this project. Option number 3 considers salvage of some of the stone that came out of the old former water treatment plant over on Old Mill Road that, as we all know, was subject to a fire, and the building has now been demolished. Much of that stone was transported to Campbell Trucking's quarry just out on Highway 15 going towards Carlton Place, and it's still there today. It's kind of segregated, it's off on the side if the town were to decide to do something with that stone. It certainly comes at a premium because there's a tremendous amount of work that would need to be done with this salvage stone, i.e. Cutting of the stone on site out at Campbell's quarry. And I know all this because I've met out there with the mason that Structurecraft's using. We had a very lengthy conversation about this stone. So we'd have to pick through it, salvage what can be salvaged. Much of the stone's broken, subject to heat, so it hasn't retained its original size, shape, and/or shape. So we'd have to sort through it, assuming that there's enough stone there for this project in terms of the square footage that would be required. So it would have to be sorted, it would have to be separated, it would have to be cut to a proper dimension, skidded, wrapped, transported to site, and then handled on site. There'd still be more work on site. This is where the masons come in with their hammers and chisels and chisel it down to again, a smaller size to incorporate into these pedestals. So as you'll see on the second bullet point, so Structurecraft would provide a credit, if you will, related back to option number 1. But the net cost, all said and done, even with the credit, we're still looking at $157,000 and change if we were to consider using that salvage stone from the water treatment plant. Sorry, the former water treatment plant. I just wanted to note that my preference would be option number 2. I think that's the best bang for the town's buck in this particular case, given the fact there isn't any net difference for the town. Structurecraft's going to eat that delta, if you will, and still provide that product. Option 3, this is just my personal feeling, that if this stone were not used on the bridge, we could do something else with that stone. We could use it for planter beds in and around the stone, maybe as separate from this particular contract, something that we could look to do down the road. Or perhaps it could be used if that site of the former water treatment plant were to be redeveloped with a new building, new structure, it could be incorporated into that structure for a commemorative feature in a bar, fireplace, facade, mantle, hearth, whatever. So those are some considerations for the stone that could be used. I'm not trying to steer council away from using it for this project. If that's council's will, we'll certainly make it happen, but it does come at a significant cost as it is documented in this report. I also wanted to note that a couple of weeks back, we removed the bridge, as council's aware, the old steel bridge that was in place. We did salvage, if you picture the east and west ends of the bridge, we basically cut some fairly large sections out of the approaches just as you were to come onto the bridge. So we kept both pieces from the left and from the right as you approach the bridge from the west side to be the very same on the east side. So we salvaged a good chunk of those, and they're sitting over an old mill, and I'm going to have some work done to those to sandblast them down and repaint them, with the idea that we can create some type of an art feature adjacent to the bridge that actually shows 2 fairly large sections of what the bridge looked like before. Maybe perhaps put a small deck across it, a plaque to say this is representative of a Warren Pony Truss bridge from back in the day. significantly, there's still quite a few of the original rivets on those sections as well. So it does reflect the construction of the bridge at the time. So that's a consideration. So that's what we're looking to do outside of trying to commemorate the former water treatment plant and trying to incorporate the stone into this particular structure as well. So with all that, like I said, I didn't necessarily in my recommendation suggest options 1, 2, or 3. I'll leave that to council's discretion. Obviously, it's council decision at the end of the day. Staff are happy to administer this however council want, but just be respectful of the fact that there is a cost significant. There'll be a change order for option number 3 if we were to choose that direction.
Thank you, Director McMahon. I appreciate your thorough explanations. We're going to start with Mayor Panko.
Thanks, Director McMahon. I mean, ideally, if the cost was the same, I probably would have been in favor of taking the stone from the old water treatment plant and cutting it and reusing it for that purpose. But based on that, on a significant difference in cost, I don't think it makes sense. And I believe we can find a purpose for that stone sometime in the future, so it does not go to waste. So I'm with you and Jerry. I think the fieldstone looks good. They're willing to cover the additional costs, so I'm fine with option 2.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire?
Thanks. Yeah, it's unfortunate that the price has come in so high for the salvage stone. I'm wondering, is there an opportunity to get a couple more quotes on using the salvage stone? Because I think it's one of those things that if you're used to working with that kind of material, you could probably do it a lot faster than if you're used to working with fresh materials. And maybe that's where some of the difference comes in, because it just seems like a huge delta between the new materials and the old stone. And the old stone has been in a wall, so it's mostly, if you knew how to pick it, I don't know what the difference between picking it out of that pile or picking it out of a fieldstone pile would be, but are we stuck with this mason, or is there an opportunity for more pricing?
So we're not the general contractor on the project. That's StructureCraft is the GC, general contractor. So it's a mason that they've commissioned for this project. They've already done their shopping around. It's who they feel comfortable. They're local. They're out of Perth. They're reputable. I just wanted to note too that the difference in the costing between option 3 compared to 1 and 2 is 1 or 2 would be stone that would show up to the job on skids, already pre-cut, pre-manufactured, if you will. Not the wrong word, because it's all natural stone, but it would be pre-cut from the quarry based on the specifications to apply to this bridge. Yeah, there might still be a little bit of handwork, but the difference is for option number 3, because we have this pile of stone rubble, if you will, all these pieces of stone, right, minus the mortar. Some of it still does have mortar. The difference in the pricing is with respect to labor. It would be weeks probably out at Campbell's Quarry, cutting, sizing everything, skidding it, transporting it to the site of the bridge. So that's where the difference comes in. It's not the cost of the stone itself. I would think that would be comparable between 1, 2, and 3. It's the amount of labor involved. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Robinson?
Thank you. I personally would, I've always thought that the stone that came out of the old water treatment plant would be used by a developer in some way, shape, or form as a feature wall or whatever. I never actually anticipated that. But when I first saw the pictures, the one that stuck in my head was option 2. And if they're going to eat that increase, I think that's probably, I think it suits the bridge better than the other one. And with the difference in cost, I personally just can't justify spending any more. And we've still got it, so we can reuse it. So that would be my preference, to go with option 2.
Councillor Brennan and then Councillor McKenna.
Yeah, I agree. Option 2 I would support. It seems like you're taking, if you even want to entertain option 3, you're taking stone from a site over here and putting it over here. So it makes more sense to reuse that stone at the original site. Notwithstanding that, there's no way that I would support another 150 grand. Plus with a delay in finishing the bridge as well, as you noted in your report. So option 2 for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKenna?
Thank you. First off, what a stunning image that you provided. It's I like the design more every time I see it. Can you just remind me, did we ask for the stone veneer, or that came with their original design work and we accepted it?
It came with their design work.
So they put
Yeah.
something that they do when they're, okay.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm supporting option 2 as well.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn?
I'm also on that page of supporting option 2. I think there's places that we can find to use the stone from the old water treatment plant, you know, and so it still just doesn't go away. I think there's options, but it's true. I cannot justify in my mind the delay in using that stone and the cost. We've already got costs involved in this bridge, and so let's go with option 2 in my opinion. Thank you.
So Director McMahon, last words, Councillor McGuire?
Yeah, I had a question on the lighting. Could we get an update on how the lighting's going?
Yeah, so through the chair, so Structurecraft is currently engaged with their lighting consultant for the arch lighting. That hasn't been quite wrapped up yet. When we do get to the point of having the design finalized, we have to do a federal basic impact assessment amendment through Parks Canada. So we've already have our permit right now, but with the understanding that the lighting will come at a later date, and Parks Canada is aware of that. So we'll submit an amendment, they'll review it, consider it. It's still up in the air whether or not it's going to be supported by Parks Canada or not. But I'll certainly, through a director's report in the future, I can brief council, let them know kind of where we're at in that process.
So lighting wise, kind of expect 2026, spring 2026 installation, or?
Through the chair, no. My intention would be that we'd be looking at installation before this project wraps up in early part of November.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So you have your marching orders. Option 2, please save the stone for another project. We heard that repeatedly around the horseshoe, and we look forward to more lighting updates as they become available. Okay.
Through the chair, just on that. So if I could, as I mentioned, the stone from the former water treatment plant was taken to Campbell's quarry. What I'm hearing is you would like staff to give direction to Rob Campbell, being the owner of Campbell's Trucking, to not dispose of that stone, to leave it where it sits. I just want a clear direction that we may have plans for it down the road.
I think we're all saying that that's really important, and we want
Okay.
that stone incorporated into some project.
Yeah, I will pass that message on to Rob Campbell.
And
Thank
please
you.
pass on our thanks to Mr. Campbell as well. Thank you. Okay, we'll move along to 10.2, also with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second report I have this evening is with respect to we'll call it the fate of the Public Works building. As we know, the structure was subject to a fire back in February, on the 15th of February. The fire department responded quite quickly to extinguish the blaze. However, particularly the north end of the building did sustain significant heat damage from the fire. As we know, we lost quite a number of pieces of equipment in that end of the building, which has since much of it's in the queue to be replaced through insurance, and that process is working its way through. But we kind of come to the point where, you know, if we're not going to be in any building, whether we looked for our insurer, IPE, and TAC public entities to rehabilitate the building and put it back to what it was pre-fire condition, we're probably still looking at the very earliest next summer, if not later, before we occupy that building to the extent that we occupied it before. So I'm here this evening, and I'll get into some of the report But you'll notice that this recommendation I have this evening, I'm not trying to, again, suggest to council one way or the other. We're providing a bunch of different options for council's consideration to provide some direction to staff in terms of which direction are we going. And I'll just note that I got Chris Warner Smith here from IDEA. IDEA, we were commissioned them some time ago. They're an architectural firm to work on a 30% design for this building. That, of course, was discussed during budget deliberations last year, well before the fire, and then coincidentally we had the fire in February, which kind of changed things. So at this point, Chris and his colleagues and his staff at IDEA have switched gears a little bit to look at different options that are all presented in this report here this evening for council's consideration. So when you go through the report, there's, how we see it, 4 different options. Option 1 would take into account council directing staff to work with IPE on a cash settlement, meaning we would not engage IPE to have their contractor come in and put the building back to pre-fire condition. We would simply negotiate a payout, if you will, and apply that money to further renovation of the building or demolish the building and build new, as was the original intent dating back last year when we were going through budget deliberations. So option number 1 would consider a cash settlement toward a new facility on the existing footprint. That's certainly an option. I don't see that as being the best option because that would effectively mean demolishing the old building while the new building would be constructed. That doesn't work for a number of reasons, primarily because we would still need some form of facility to operate out of, albeit in this particular case, it would be limited to not utilizing the north end of the building that was subject to most of the fire. We could operate out of the southern end of the building that was subject to smoke damage. So that's an option. Yeah, so cash settlement and then put that towards a new facility on the same footprint. This would significantly reduce the town's net cost to build a new facility. This option would cause for the demolition of the existing building, which I just noted before. Yeah, option 1, that particular option, the net cost of the town would be north of $9,174,000 and change. This all takes into account the cash settlement being about 1.43 million. That's the indication that we're getting from IPE at this particular point in time. And that's the lowest of 3 quotes they've received from their general contractor when they went to market to put the building back to its pre-fire state. 1.43 is the lesser of those 3 bids. So that's what they're going to allocate towards this rehabilitating the building. Option 2 considers a cash settlement as well towards a new facility fronting Walker Road. This, of course, would allow for the existing building to stay as it is right now, allowing space for Public Works to occupy a portion of the building and function out of it until the new building is built and receive occupancy. Option 2, the net cost of the town would be just marginally less than option number 1, just a little over $9 million. Again, considers a $1.43 million settlement from insurance. I just wanted to note that this 1.43 million has not necessarily been to any length really discussed with IPE. It's been kind of thrown around that we may be considering a cash settlement. So if council direct staff to go down that route, we would have to open up that narrative and have that conversation with them. Where things land in terms of the value has yet to be determined. It's just a number that we think will be in and around that dollar value for purposes of this report here this evening. Option number 3 would be repair the building through intact public entities. So they would spend the 1.43 million. And then we would engage Chris and his team to apply additional renovations to building to bring it up to some of the desired outcomes that we were looking for out of this building in the first place. One thing of note that would be included in this renovation would be effectively a new roof. As the existing roof pre-fire still leaks significantly. I know Community Services spent some money over the last couple of years on the roof, but it wasn't enough to completely fix the roof. The roof needs to be replaced. So option 3, again, repair through intact public entities. They spend the 1.43 million, fix it up to pre-fire condition. We come in, renovate, and then we apply an addition to the building, which is shown in the 3 different drawings that were associated with this report. So effectively, it would look like an L. That addition would front Walker Road. And the addition would presumably incorporate washrooms, shower facilities for staff, which we're lacking right now. We don't have any shower facilities at all, period. As well as administrative offices for myself and my engineering team upstairs in the other half of town hall. The net cost of that particular option would be just about 8.7 million. So less than 1 and 2. However, it still leaves us with a aged building that would not be new. So the existing building would still remain, albeit it would go through renovation, but it's still going to be an old structure. The one thing that's not necessarily, I don't think, addressed in this report, I don't recall putting it in there, but my big concern is, coming from my background with a lot of experience with grading and drainage, particularly for new construction, and older areas of a municipality that have drainage issues. Some of the other older areas of town that, grading and drainage wasn't a thing back in the day, and people would deal with water issues in the yard. The original building at 11 Aircare Drive, in my opinion, is about 1 foot to 1.5 feet too low. We can't fix that through a renovation of this building. Unless, of course, we were going to spend a lot more money, raise the building, and re-pour a new slab, which I don't think would be money well spent. So we simply can't address raising the building, getting it up to what the grade needs to be. This can be done, but I would suggest that the cost would be north of option 1 or 2 if we were to go that route. I'd like to take a moment to advise that I had an email from Councillor Brennan earlier today questioning the new public works garage that was built by Montague Township, just east of town here. I had an opportunity today. I reached out to their public works manager. He was kind enough to offer me a tour of their facility. I went out, toured the facility. They're looking at occupancy later this week, possibly Friday. They're right at the end of this project, just a few little odds and sods to finish. Beautiful structure. He attributes a lot of the work to the general contractor that was engaged on this project. They did a really, really nice job. The site work around the site was really nice. You can definitely see the grade coming off the building, positive drainage around the building. Stormwater management was accounted for. They built a small stormwater pond in the back of the property to get all the water to go back there. It's about a 22,000 square foot building, albeit it does house, on the one end of the building, being the west end of the building, 3 bays for the fire department. And then there's a common administrative area in the middle of the building for a few public works staff and the fire chief, of course, and some small washrooms, very small shower facilities. Again, they have not nearly the staff we have here at Town Hall, at the Town of Smith Falls. And then the far east end of the building is public works. So there's the equivalent of 4 high bays down there that are full, the full depth of the building, so you can drive in, drive out. Beautiful facility. That particular build, all site work, the information I'm getting, which I would want to confirm this with the treasurer, which I haven't had a chance to do yet, but the manager of public works, to his understanding, it was around 6.5 million for that facility. 22,000 square feet, which works out to just under $300 a square foot. Has some really nice features in it. Radiant in-floor heating, which is really efficient heating system. So I don't think they went with the Cadillac, but I think they went with a really decently high-end Chevy. The site looks beautiful, like the whole site in and around. They did a really, really nice job with the paving and everything. So all that to say, it was mentioned as well that the original Class D estimates that they got for that project were far in excess of what the market prices came in when they went to tender on the project. So I know these numbers here this evening are shocking. I get that. I spoke with Chris before the meeting, and we do feel like they're, when we do go to market, it would be expected, because this is a Class D estimate. We can't account for everything at this point in time. I have a strong belief that those numbers will come down. So the purpose of this evening's meeting isn't necessarily to get, I know it's easy for me to say, but to get too terribly hung up on the dollar amount. I would be more comfortable getting direction from council in terms of which direction do we want to go? Are we comfortable in, well, sorry, let me back up. There's also a fourth option. Option number 4 would be to not build onto the existing building, to not build a new building adjacent to the existing, to simply let IPE come in, spend the 1.43 million and put it back to pre-fire condition. But as I noted before, there's a whole bunch of deficiencies outside of scope of IPE, i.e. the roof, that would still need to be addressed. So council would have to make a decision in the future to allocate some capital funds to the building to renovate it. So this evening, we need to give IDEA some direction as to how we're going to proceed, which route are we going to go. Looking for direction on advancing a conversation with intact public entities in terms of what council's wishes are, if they direct staff to negotiate terms for a cash settlement or not. That's and then lastly, what do we see for the future for this particular site and the structure? Again, I would kind of revert back to budget deliberations last year when council afforded $70,000 towards a 30% design based on the premise of the building's deficient. We know there's a bunch of health and safety concerns, notably no shower facilities for staff. The washroom facilities are aged. There's not nearly enough administrative office space. There's no lunchroom. Staff currently eat out in the middle of the garage at folding tables and chairs. The kitchenettes, it's makeshift at best. And there's a lot of, staff may do with the building as best they could. And they made it into a public works garage, but it's not purpose-built building. So I'll leave it with that. Chris is here to support. If there's any technical questions this evening, or if you wanted to pick his brain, feel free. He can come up to the podium here, and we're both happy to answer any of your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Director McMahon, and thanks, Chris, for being here. Appreciate that. So I just remind my colleagues that we're looking for general direction tonight, and there's 4 options to provide direction with. We'll start with Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. So every year at the start of a term, council's taken around the facilities. So I'm going to say it was 12 years ago or 2 terms ago or whatever, was the first time I stepped foot in Air Care Drive, and Troy Dunlop was in your position, and I walked out of there thinking this is not, this is not good. And for the reasons you had said, the conditions for staff, and the last time, like 3 years ago, had a look at the roof. Of course, it's done. I think that this is long overdue, in my opinion. And I know we've been talking about some big ticket items around here lately, but to me, this is core. So I think that the real questions are going to come to my friend over at the table, Mr. Treasurer, is how we're going to pay for this. But and I hopefully it's not that big number you've said, but I'm glad that you've got the information from Montague. And but this is I mean, Public Works is goes hand in hand with the water treatment plant, the wastewater plant. It's core services that we're providing, and it's unfortunate that we had a fire last year, but sometimes things happen for a reason. My question, I have a question, then I'll say what I think, but all the equipment that we lost is replaced through insurance over and above this 1.4, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's not even, this is just the building we're talking about.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So my preference would be to go ahead and do the option 2. I think you were talking about fronting Walker Road, where you could use the building in the interim. But I would really need to know how. I know it's probably debt financing, so I would need to know how we're doing on our other repayments. I know you provided that to us last year, Paul, but and how long this would take to peel off after if we did that. So I know we're below our self-imposed debt limit. We're way below the provincial debt limit, but so if you could
Sure, through
see
the chair.
how we're going to do this.
Based on, and I'll bring some updated numbers as far as that,
Yeah.
where we're at in the upcoming budget discussions. But currently where we sit and the strategy that we've been looking at is looking at our ending balances and what's committed. You kind of take that into account that you would be accurate. It would be heavily reliant on debt financing.
Yeah.
Right now, we'll find out exactly what that might be after, I think it's the 16th to the 17th, where we're going to announcement for interest rates and how they're going to come down. When we look at the debt financing portion for the water tower, and when we look at the upcoming trunk main, then we would probably, there's a good possibility the council may need to look at adjusting the self-imposed debt ceiling. I don't think we'd be coming anywhere near the provincial, but I certainly would think that that's something that council would have to take into consideration, that we might have to look at adjusting that debt ceiling, depending on any sort of funding announcements for the trunk main. So, but I don't think that's off the table. I think that needs to be a reality that we need to face.
Okay, thank you.
Director?
And just through the chair, I would hope and pray that given the money that's flying around here these days, that we do get some help on the truck main and the water. But anyway, I would be, I would think that this takes priority over soccer fields and arenas. So I saw it over 10 years or 12 years ago that it due. So
Thank you.
that is my thought.
Mayor Penko, you're next.
Thanks, Paul, again. First off, a few questions. So the new proposed building appears to be, I'm guessing, 40%, 50% bigger than what we have right now. Is that correct?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah. It's about just shy of 20,000 square feet. Yeah.
So it's primarily the addition of a kitchenette, more washroom, showers, office space, but I also assume, is there more bays in the new one than there would be in the existing one? Is there like more space for equipment and repairs?
Yes. I'm not sure exactly how many, maybe I'll ask Chris to come up. He has a little more context. He's been working pretty intimately on this project.
Yeah, there would be a bit of growth in the overall footprint of the building to accommodate, I think, more space for the fleet that the town would have, or that is proposed to have in the future. And then there was an ask also for bays for storage of other vehicle types like Zambonis, seasonal equipment, like lawnmowers and that type of thing that I believe is stored in another facility now. So with the idea, I think, I want to speak out of turn, but potentially with the opportunity to no longer use that facility and bring some of that equipment over here. So yeah, there would be additional bays, at least an additional bay, and then larger bays, along with growth of the office component to it. And we'll call it staff facilities, because what's there at 11 Air Care currently is quite small for the number of staff that works there.
Thank you.
And it's, a few more questions. Is it somewhat future-proof too? Understanding
Yes.
where,
Yeah, that's a big consideration as well, as we didn't want to propose a building that is exactly what you have today, because my assessment walking through there is you've outgrown it considerably already. And so because of that, we've sized the building appropriately and also considered what are the needs going to be in 10 years. You don't want to spend all the money and then outgrow it the day that you move in.
and the additional proposed storage, that's an addition. That's almost 1,000 square meters, I think, or no, 360 square meters. So is that 3,000, 4,000 square feet, somewhere in there? And that would, I mean, that's obviously part of the cost, but is that another like $1 million building, I guess, as an example? Is that something is it needed now, or could that be something we would consider in the future? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I would think about it, those different components as that. Like we've sort of looked at this this is sort of the ideal scenario. Like this would be really great. This is what the town could really use today. But there are certainly components that the cold storage building could be $750,000. It could be something that could be deferred 5-10 years down the road. As you need. It's not appended to the building. It's sort of off on its own. So there's lots of opportunities to sort of scale back the scope.
Okay, and the fuel depot. I mean, that's what $500,000, I guess, is what I think I saw in the information. Which, I mean, it's convenient. We assume we've diesel fuel on site now to look after the vehicles.
Correct. Yes.
This would be one that we would also have gasoline, I guess, which would all town vehicles could take advantage of. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm hoping or assuming that the investment would the savings on fuel costs over time would help overcome the capital investment needed to provide that. Is that a reasonable statement? I guess when you look at from police, fire, obviously public works, community services, all the vehicles we have need fuel. We could actually purchase our own fuel at wholesale and provide it at a lower cost. Is that the
Exactly.
rationale?
That's a fair assessment, and that's a thought of this fueling depot, if you will. I mean, it's for instance, they have a small version out in Montague Township at their new yard. Brockville's got a system that's a little bit more robust at their facility, the Gord Wass Municipal Center on North Augusta Road. I put that in during my time there. But yes, we'd be looking at diesel, color diesel, and then regular unleaded as well. And just as he mentioned, Mayor, the idea would be that this simply wouldn't be a fueling depot for just public works. So we would extend it. We would have it accessible off of either Air Care or Walker Road, depending on how the site layout happens. But it would be not necessarily under a gated, locked-in area. It would be accessible 24/7. There'd be like a card lock system, meaning it'd be like a fob or whatever that you have on your keychain to get through doors here in Town Hall. You swipe it on the display and it activates the pumps and you fill up and off you go. It records everything. So the idea would be that yes, we would save over time haven't really developed a business plan for it yet, but we would save over time. We would buy fuel at a discounted rate through a fuel supplier, be very different than the fuel that we get at Petrocan or Esso because we're paying retail rates.
Yes, I guess as we move forward with this, assuming council support of some variation of this, I'd like to see the business case for that. I mean, we know it would be hard to figure out how much we're spending on fuel in a year and what our wholesale price would be compared to that, and the potential payback. I know it's something that would probably pay for itself over a period of time, but I guess the question would be what that would be. And
just on that,
yeah.
Mayor, through the chair, there's different fuel suppliers out there that will incentivize if you're buying fuel from them. Maybe incentivize is the wrong word, but they'll put funding towards the system that you're putting in. I wouldn't say it's going to be a wash at the end of the day, but if you enter into a long-term agreement, they'll actually put money towards that infrastructure to offset some of the costs. If you sign an agreement to buy fuel from,
okay,
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, we see it commonly to supply of the holding tanks that could be storing the fuel. It could be construction of certain components of the system, supply of the pumps themselves too. So you obviously have to build a business case to see what makes the most sense. Options.
Well, I acknowledge the current space is obviously inadequate from a health and safety standpoint. It's probably not suitable for people to be working in, as Councillor Brennan alluded to. We've seen it multiple times, and it's been on the radar for redevelopment for a long time, or replacement. The fire probably has somewhat moved this up. My only reluctance obviously is cost. And I guess just as a small example, if we had to finance $8 million, we're looking at about almost $600,000 a year in new financing charges, just on a 20-year amortization, which was, let's say, about 3 points on our tax bill for one project alone. So I'm not, that's the hope that there would be grants. And the other piece, of course, would be the possibility of green grants if we move to a more carbon-friendly heating and building envelope improvements. Recognizing gradient and floor heating certainly probably would be ideal and effective. So a lot of again, we're only taking a few steps in this project. So I think it would, in the long run, the cost savings of reducing our energy consumption would also be a positive with a new build, in contrast to trying to fix up an old building. So I guess I'm supportive in principle, but I'm also recognizing we've got so many other major projects that are going to require debt financing that we all have to work with as we go forward. So option 2, I think, is more appropriate. I think it's important to enable space to work in until this is done. And I'm hoping there's a lot of maybe work that could be done that might bring this cost down quite a bit lower than the forecast that we have today.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Panko. We've got some other questions as well. Councillor McKenna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If my assumption's correct, I think we'll be looking at our budget in a very, very few weeks. I look to our Director of Corporate Services for that, but we aren't very far out. And to make a decision outside of looking at the whole picture is difficult. You're not asking for approval tonight, but you're looking for direction. Yeah, I need to have it in context with the whole budget we're going to be looking at this year. Having said that, it wouldn't make sense to renovate that older structure. And there is a lot of merit to, as my colleagues have said, using it while you're building something else. I just don't know what that something else is in total yet, but certainly not in favor of renovating the old one. So that one's off my list. And I can't make a final decision until we have a budget in front of us, a proposed budget with all of our costs for next year. But I'm glad you brought it forward. I also think it's only a Class D estimate, and I'm glad Montague had a different experience, but every estimate I've seen, if you're looking at a year or two out, they tend not to go down. And there's a lot of exclusions in this budget. There's probably another $1 million in those excluded budget items that I understand, furniture and remediation, all those other things we have to do yet. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it is for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go to Councillor McGuire and then Councillor Robinson.
Thanks. Wondering how many square feet or square meters are we proposing here versus what the size of the structure that Montague built?
Yeah, so through the chair, so Montague structures around, I pasted off there, well, sorry, the manager knew the dimension of one side, not the other, so I pasted off the other and did a quick calculations, about 22,000 square feet. The building as a whole, understanding that a portion of that on the west end is fire. The building that Chris has developed and designed to get it to this point is just under 20,000 square feet, so 19,000 and something, yeah.
About 10% smaller.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'm just, when I saw the price, my jaw dropped because it's a huge number, and it, so I'm looking at, I don't think it's worth fixing up the existing building. There's a good case to not do that. But at the same time, I'd like to see, like, I wouldn't want to cut the cold storage if the cold storage could create a smaller facility. And I don't want to build a facility for 25 years from now. If we could build a facility that's good for the next 5-10 years, and then in 5-10 years, if we need to put an addition on and add bays, then let's do it then. But I just don't see how we can afford, you know, an $8-9 million building right now, debt financed. It gives me a lot of pause. So I'm hoping the other thing too, like we look at the fuel service stations Marpenko was talking about, we're talking about, I don't know, do they last 15 or 25 years or the lifespan of it, but I see that as huge liability, and we'd have to save between 20,000 and 35,000 a year, depending on what the life cycles on that. So there's got to be a really good business case of what those savings are and what the liability insurance, all that is going to change on the site. So I'm not sure, I guess for the options, option 2 is the one where we can keep using the existing facility, so that makes the most sense. But I'm hoping we can find a lot of opportunities for value, or maybe phasing this in, because I'm not ready to take on a $10 million, $8 million facility.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson and then Councillor Quinn.
Thanks. I'm leaning towards the direction of option 2. I think that's the most feasible one for us to do. And Councilor McKenna made some valid points. We're going to have to see the whole picture before we can actually do it. I do have a couple of one question for sure. I noticed on site development option 2 with a list of all the costs, there's in option 1 it's a little over 900,000, and in option 2 it's a little under 900,000 for general requirements and fees. What does that involve?
General requirements and fees is typically we'll call it general contractors costs. So that would be simply the cost to manage the project, to staff it on the general contractor side. So any safety equipment, all of that. And I know the reason it fluctuates is how we calculate it is purely based on a percentage of the overall cost of the project. So you'll see it go down slightly or up slightly as the cost of the overall project goes up or down.
Okay. And if I may, just one other comment. I think you answered this, but if we were to defer, as Councillor McGuire said, doing it in stages, is the site itself large enough to accommodate building additional stuff at a later date? Or would we be looking at getting rid of the site for some other purpose and moving if we needed additional buildings?
Oh, I can take a stab at that one. So I think if we were to consider a staged approach, say for instance, if we were going to build the garage, the quote unquote garage component, minus the administrative portion. That could certainly be done. We'd have to make sure that we incorporate an administrative portion element of it, because we would need to incorporate showers for staff, right? So what I'm getting at is, you know, perhaps that be a reduced square footage section that would otherwise be occupied by myself and my staff upstairs at Town Hall. Not an expert in this stuff, but I'll take a stab at what I think the answer is. If we were to look at this in terms of, okay, we're gonna build a portion of it, and then we're maybe plan to build an addition down the road. So we talked about costs earlier. As we're sitting here talking about this, costs continue to escalate and rise. A couple things. If we were to defer the full build, down the road costs are going to go up. The other thing that I would think would be, if it's a thought now to build an addition down the road, there's a good chance that it may not happen at all, period. We'd lose sight of it. It's interesting. This morning at senior management, we had a discussion about Town Hall in general, and we're starting to find that we're getting short of office space for staff, in so much that staff are starting to double up on offices, as we, not necessarily as we lose staff to, you know, to going to other jobs or what have you, or changing careers, but, you know, as we bring new staff on into new positions, we're simply running out of space for those staff. So myself personally, I see this as a benefit if council were to take the direction of building the new option number 2, fronting Walker Road, with the appropriate office space for myself and my team upstairs. That would free up the whole upstairs of that older wing of Town Hall. It's been talked about that wing of Town Hall could be subject to renovation phase number 4, I think it is. So if it was subject to a renovation, where do the staff go that occupy that space right now? They have to move out, and I don't know where those, and we'd have to set up shop somewhere. So again, we're talking about significant dollars. I'm pretty confident that, based on my conversation with staff from Montague Township today, that these Class D estimate that have been proposed by IDEA should come down. You got to respect the fact of what a Class D estimate is. It's got a buffer in there, if you will, of 20% kind of contingency. Well, 20% is a lot. On $10 million, that's $2 million. So undoubtedly, I think these numbers will come down. And I think as we work through the design, we can look at certain parts of the design in itself where we can, not indifferent to if you're building a new home, oh, we don't need granite countertops, we'll go with laminate countertops, because that saves us $5,000. We can do something similar in this particular case to get it down to something that's palatable for council.
Thank you. Okay, and we have questions from Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. And I know I'm going to get raised eyebrows. I really do. Have you fought insurance hard enough? Because insurance companies are in the business of making money. And so they're not really generous with what they offer as a settlement. And I don't know where you're at with that. I don't know how that has gone along, but I do know insurance companies do have insurance to make money. And I think we need to push them really hard to get every nickel out of them that we can. So that's just a question. My other question is, do we have a space big enough where we could build new public works and a new fire hall? Because we need both. We realize that. And I know, like I said, I'm going to get raised eyebrows. But maybe it wouldn't happen today, but can we plan for something like that? Set up the building, to build something that could be expanded, that would have space, that we could look at other services being there. And my personal opinion on the building that's there now, I don't see it being able to be completely renovated to what we need and what is required. So I think that if we're looking at a new build, that's where we need to go, and we need to build what we need, what's required. And like Councillor Brennan said, that building has been terrible for years. It's a shame, it's disgusting that we have allowed people to work in that. So it needs to be fixed and fixed properly.
So through the chair, a couple of questions there to unpack. So number one was negotiating with the insurance company, with IPE. We've talked about it. We haven't really got into those quote unquote negotiations, as it wouldn't be, staff aren't arbitrarily just going to go down that road, obviously without council's direction. So that's the purpose of tonight's meeting. 100%, if I were given direction to negotiate with IPE, my interests are with the town of Smith Falls, and I will do whatever I can to negotiate those best terms, presumably with Malcolm's and Paul Dower's assistance. The second part of the question was, have we looked at a site, whether it be that site or another site, to house Public Works and Fire? You're absolutely right, Councillor Quinn. Fire is slowly outgrowing. Already have outgrown their facilities here at Town Hall. Albeit I know we talked about the Public Works yard, and it was my understanding at the time that it's a little bit too far off the beaten path for Fire to be located that far away from the downtown core. Is that a fair assessment, Chief?
Yes.
Because we did talk about it, and the thought and the notion was tabled that, if we're going to build an operations facility, maybe we look at building an operations facility that could be for Public Works and Fire. But the site just wasn't conducive, being that it's in the chief's opinion, too far away from much of the downtown core. That wouldn't preclude us from looking at an alternative site. However, we'd be looking at purchasing another site. That takes time. Right now, Public Works is somewhat without a home. We do have a site trailer on site that's kind of doubling as a change room and a lunchroom for staff. And then there's another smaller trailer for bathroom, washroom facilities. No showers, just toilet and sinks. So we're making do with what we have. If we were to consider operating out of the existing building, minus the north end of the building that was subject to the fire, it would simply be for like cold storage. We'd still need the site trailer. We'd still need the washrooms. We wouldn't be using the building for anything other than, fabricating signs, or in the wintertime, bringing plow assemblies in to change cutting edges on plows, that kind of thing. So storage. I think that those were your two questions. So I'm just making a note here of, as council members have kind of chimed in, which.
Just hold the summary for just a second.
Sure.
Councillor Quinn has another question that I'd like to chime into,
Sure.
and then we'll work on a summary together, okay?
And I guess what I am trying to envision is, let's not keep everything really closed. Let's not look at this. And I totally understand what you're saying. We do need a place for staff to work out of. Is there somewhere else that staff could work out of temporarily, like part of the Hershey plant? Because there doesn't seem to be much going on there. They might be quite happy to think, well, you know what, I can get a little bit of rent money out of this while we're trying to figure out what we're doing. And that's a pretty large facility. Might not be the right facility. That's just one that comes into my head. Are there possibilities there? Because I think if we're going to build and we're going to spend money, let's look at the big picture. I know that's not really popular to think about spending a whole lot of money, but if we built a new Public Works now for $9 million, Then we have to turn around and build a fire department for how much more? Would it be much more cost effective to be building them both, where there's room for both? And could the property on Air Care Drive be sold?
So,
I've given you a lot. Could it be sold? Could there be an amendment?
through the chair, if I could, the one issue I see is that, under the notion of selling the property, the town invested, I'm not sure the dollar amount, but we put the new salt shed in there a number of years ago. So there's a significant investment that we're not simply picking that up and moving it to another site. Perhaps that adds value to the property if it were sold to a contractor or something that does winter control operations in town or the adjacent townships. It's a possibility. So there's some good ideas there for sure. My focus right now is to keep advancing this narrative in terms of how do we engage IPE? How do we keep traction on the design? So Chris is commissioned to produce a 30% design. And Chris, not to put you on the spot, but in terms of percentage, where do you think we're at right now in terms of the design? We've got a site plan.
Yeah, I'd say we're still relatively early in the overall design process. We have the site options decently well figured out. They're very well vetted. The building, I think we refer to it as the programming exercise, and that comes down to saying what specific things do you need in the building. That's advanced to a degree. If that has to be scaled back and scoped back, that's a bit of a revision. So I'd say the overall up to 30%, we're probably halfway there. And if I could just maybe even speak to, and apologies, just to the point about the site a little bit, I'd say you can rest assured the site as it is today is actually a very good site, and it's very well sized, at least for public works operations. In terms of the main things to consider for sites like this, you always have to think about large warehouses, vehicle movements in the back space, and just general open storage. The site is well sized for that. It works well for that, and there's even growth potential on this site for that right now, with a bit of organization, of course. So comparing, at least this is purely for consideration for everyone, when you compare two types of facilities, a fire station, we do many designs for fire stations as well, and a lot of times we find the desire for that is closer to urban centers versus public works facilities they need acreage, and usually you can't find acreage closer to urban centers. You're kind of on the periphery or in industrial spaces, which is sort of why the public works area is where it is today. It's well sited. So while it makes sense to combine it from we'll call it a budgeting point of view, from a practical point of view, if you were to lose the current public works site, you may be really challenged to find a better combined site for both fire services and for public works. So you'll find some economies of scale there for sure, but you might lose the practical side of the two operations.
Thank you. Thanks. So thanks, Chris, and thanks, Director McMahon. And I'll just chime in as well. I think Councillor McKenna said it really well earlier when you said you approved or agreed in principle to the work, and we all talked about the budget. So just to kind of summarize what I think I heard today, Director, is that option 2 is the preferred choice, but what we're looking really at next is to finish this design work, to look if there's staging options, to hear about the budget for 2026 and how this may or may not fit in. Are there grants that we could get to make this a green project that would help offset some of the cost? And we're looking at a business case for the fuel. Does that summarize? Yes.
And what we do with IPA, do we collectively agree that negotiate a settlement versus a repair? So I'm supportive of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have thumbs up to that summary, Director. Does that make sense?
It does. So just to reiterate through the chair, so I guess first and foremost, I'm receiving direction to negotiate with IP a settlement. First and foremost, so get that out of the way. There's no interest to try to salvage the existing structure.
That's correct.
So regardless of which way we go in terms of the options, being a new build, you're still giving staff direction to negotiate the best terms that we can get. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for your work on this, Director.
Thank you,
Clerk
Madam
Casella.
Chair. I just want to, I've got the action. I just wanted to clarify with Director McMunn if the minutes that clarify the action are sufficient, or if you would like to craft some type of resolution for this evening, because it kind of goes with one of the options, but it does deviate a bit from what you initially.
I would say we're not approving one of the options. We're just giving direction in principle.
So we'll just leave in the minutes.
Nodding heads around the horseshoe.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That was a good discussion. Yes.
Just on that point, on the motion or no motion, we could do a motion to give staff the go-ahead to negotiate with the insurance.
Probably a good idea, I would think.
And then that would be it,
Great.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, and our final priority item is with Chief Cheeseborough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report tonight is dealing with out of province, out of country travel for 2 firefighters. I was contacted by CPKC, Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad, a few weeks ago, asking if we would be interested in sending 2 staff. They had 2 vacancies to Denver, Colorado, to the training facility down there. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It's one of the only ones that I'm aware of in North America. All railroad staff are sent down there. It's specific training on rail cars, fuel cars, and the transportation of rail. I said that I would check to see if I had a couple staff available, which I anxiously had more than a couple staff. So we picked a full-time staff and a career staff into the group. Then we notified them that we did have 2 staff. The total cost of the travel is covered 100% by CPKC. Airfare, hotels, rental vehicle, all meals with the exception of dinner on 2 nights that they'll have to pick up the tab themselves. All training is covered. Baggage to send their bunker gear down is all covered. We were required to provide fit testing results for both staff, which we have done. We have consulted with both our insurance broker to see if there was any things that we should consider or take a look at, or make recommendations as to what they should or shouldn't do. We consulted with our HR advisor on their WSIB to ensure that they do have WSIB coverage while they're down there. So everything has been vetted through. The bylaw that's currently in place, 8048-2004, requires council approval for out of province, out of country travel, unless there's a neighboring out of country that can be approved by the CAO. So tonight I'm seeking council's approval to pass a resolution authorizing 2 firefighters to travel to Denver, Colorado for railroad site-specific training.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor Panko?
Thanks, Chief. Certainly supportive, but if I'm not mistaken, I think we've sent 1 or 2 down there before.
Through the chair, that was Lieutenant Normandin and Lieutenant Smith, and that was back before I was here. So I'm not sure. This facility, and just to touch on that, this facility has been totally revamped and redone. This will be the first class going through the brand new training facility.
We'll see. Great opportunity. Thank you.
Councilor McGuire?
Thanks. Yeah, it sounds like a great value, great opportunity. I'm wondering, how do we check that their facility meets or exceeds what a similar facility in Ontario would be at for health and safety?
dealing with Canadian Pacific Railroad inside of Kansas City, their safety procedures, their safety protocol, and their safety maintenance far exceeds industry standards. I'm more than confident that this facility, which is open up worldwide to worldwide firefighters, would not operate if it had substandards or less than Ontario. So it far exceeds any occupational health and safety concerns that we have in Ontario.
So no chance of a Nova Scotia mishap, and they're good to go.
I'll never say never, but I certainly think that they're well positioned. This isn't something they just started. This has been going on, as the mayor indicated, for years. They put thousands of staff through this, so it's an excellent opportunity. And certainly with a major railroad system in town, this will heighten our knowledge and our skill set. And certainly if the opportunity becomes again to send more, that's my intent.
Thank
Great,
you,
thank
Chief.
you.
Thank you. Thumbs up. Looks like you have your direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any committee, board, or external organization updates? Did you have your hand up, Mayor Franco?
No.
Thank you. We have no correspondence items, no notice of motion, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that the committee adjourn its proceedings at 6:16 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
back on.
Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of Smith Falls Town Council for Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. On September 2nd, 2025, we acknowledge that the sacred land in which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years in its rich and indigenous history. This land is the ancestral Odansea territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all their relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. I will call the meeting to order at 6:21 p.m. The approval of the agenda is with Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm ready to make the motion. I just want some clarity on 9.3 still part of, I just missed that in the, is that still a motion coming forward tonight?
Yes, 9, 1, 2, and 3.
So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the September 2nd, 2025 regular council meeting be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Robinson, that the September 2nd, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'll ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. We have no approval of minutes. Council reports. Who wants to go first? Councillor McGuire?
I will say there was an arts committee meeting tonight, and I know we've talked about it in the past of meeting on the 5th Mondays and not meeting on the short weeks, but I really find these short weeks we're trying to cram too much in because we've got other meetings that are fixed with other days of the week. So I can't report on what happened at it, but yeah, I don't know.
Try and hurry up and get done so you can head there next. Or
I think it's over.
Oh.
I hope it's over.
Okay, sorry. Other reports? Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I just want to say that on Thursday of last week, we went down to the senior center to rename it for Bud Fawcett, and it was a great event, well attended, and family was ecstatic, and the seniors were ecstatic, and we were ecstatic, and so well deserved. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, his heart's still there, and his name will live on there for perpetuity. Thank you. I have no further announcements myself other than our updates, but I have 2 proclamations. The first is Big Brothers Big Sisters Month for September 2025. Whereas Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lanark County is an important community organization committed to helping children and youth reach their full potential by matching them with caring volunteer members. Whereas evidence-based research has shown youth who have a big brother or a big sisters are less likely to bully or be bullied, feel better about school, and are more likely to have a healthy and positive outlook on life well into adulthood. And whereas we believe that by changing the course of young lives, we can in turn be changing the course of a community's future. And that could lead to a reduction in poverty and unemployment, to safer schools and neighborhoods, or to renewed optimism for growth. Whereas Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lanark County relies heavily on the strength and dedication of its volunteers who, through their commitment and support, make a profound difference in the lives of children and youth in our community. Whereas the agency's goal is to expand its recruitment drive in order to serve more children and youth in our community. Now, therefore, I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Big Brother Big Sister Month, and specifically that September 18th, 2025 be known as Big Brothers Big Sisters Day in the Town of Smith Falls. And the municipal complex and bandstand will be illuminated in teal in recognition of Big Brothers Big Sisters Month. And further, that all citizens are encouraged to volunteer or donate by visiting Lanark County Big Brothers Big Sisters.ca and learn more about how you can get involved in giving young people the confidence to achieve more. And second proclamation is Pulmonary Fibrosis Month, September 2025. Whereas in Canada, there are 30,000 people who've been diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis or idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, if the cause is unknown, which is idiopathic, with many more still waiting to be diagnosed. Whereas pulmonary fibrosis, a little known, progressive, and potentially fatal lung disease that causes scarring in the lungs and shortness of breath, depriving the body of oxygen, whereas people living with pulmonary fibrosis and idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis could benefit from early diagnosis and treatment to slow down and in some cases stop the progression of the disease. Whereas pulmonary fibrosis affects not just individuals, but their families, friends, and employers, communities, and are often given little attention or concern by the general public. The general healthcare system and elected and appointed public policymakers result in an inadequate priority being given to the disorder. Where the Canadian Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation has designated September as Pulmonary Fibrosis Month and urges increased effort and action intended to improve access to quality care, support research into new and improved treatments, and provide support services to improve the quality of life for those living with pulmonary fibrosis and idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis and their families. Now therefore be resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, do hereby proclaim the month of September to be Pulmonary Fibrosis Month in the Town of Smith Falls and urge all community members to become informed and involved in the fight to eradicate this serious disease. So moving forward with our agenda, we have a consent agenda with Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the items in the consent report number 12-2025 received from the clerk be received and adopted.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the items in consent report number 12-2025 received from the clerk be received and adopted. Clerk Costello.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two resolutions and two bylaws on this evening's consent agenda. The first being the 2026 capital pre-budget approval for the water meter replacement program. The second resolution regarding the regional recreation complex. The two bylaws, award of the water meter replacement program, and as well as the agreement with WorkZoom payroll and HRIS platform.
Thank you. Would anyone like to pull anything out for individual discussion or approval? No? Okay. Based on that, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have a few motions tonight. Our first is with Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls approve the out-of-country travel for two firefighters to attend specialized training in Denver, Colorado with Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad.
Please. Discussion, please.
This is, they've got a specialized facility in Denver, and the chief's done his homework on making sure that the workplace insurance and standards are all up to standards. So we're lucky to be able to send these at the cost of Kansas City, Canadian Pacific, Kansas City. Yeah, it'll be good training to have in our service.
Yes, thank you. Moved by Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Miller. The Council of Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls approved the out-of-country travel for two firefighters to attend specialized training in Denver, Colorado with Canadian Pacific, Kansas City, CPKC Railroad. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item is with Councillor McKenna, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brennan. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls direct staff to proceed with negotiating a cash settlement with intact public entities regarding the Air Care Drive property. And further that the negotiated amount be brought forward to council for their final approval.
Thank you. Discussion, please.
Yeah, we had unfortunately last year had a fire at our Public Works garage on Air Care Drive. Reaching very close to reaching a settlement with the insurer. And as we all know, we had a robust discussion about what else we could do with that building, renovate it, or is it better to tear it down and build a new one? And there's going to be more discussion coming on that. But this decision tonight was strictly around directing staff to proceed in discussions with the insurer to get the very best possible payment.
Thank you. Any further discussion? It's moved by Councillor McKenna, seconded by Councillor Brennan. The Council Corporation of Town of Smith Falls direct staff to proceed with negotiating a cash settlement with intact public entities, in brackets IPE, regarding the 11 Air Care Drive property. And further that the negotiated amount be brought forward to council for their final approval. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And our third and final motion is with Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls directs staff to proceed with option number 2, Fieldstone veneer, as the preferred stone masonry veneer option for the concrete pedestals of the new timber bridge as presented in report 2025-087.
Further discussion, please?
This is an option that we have chose to go with. It's a field stone option. It looks lovely in my opinion, and Structure Craft are very much looking forward to doing this, and there is no additional cost to the town.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councilor McGuire.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge, I think we've missed an opportunity here. We don't, we were going to be able to tie in the history of the site with the Goulds Mill stone, with the new bridge. We're not able to do that. And I think if we were able to get a price from a mason that's working with repurposed stone, I believe that cost could have been in the same ballpark as the new stone, because if you don't know how to work with it, it's going to take more time and effort to figure it out. So it's unfortunate that we can't get a cost to compare it, or at least show that all the costs are more, and then we did our homework on that, because I just want to make a point that I don't think there's ever going to be a time where there's not going to be some kind of inconvenience of using that material, because it's always going to be easier for anybody to use new materials. So we have this material sitting on site that we've saved. We've got more material sitting out on Highway 15 at the quarry. I really hope that at a future project, when the stone can be used near the site, that it's got the political support to do so.
So noted. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that Council Corporation of Town of Smith Falls direct staff to proceed with option 2, field stone veneer, as a preferred stone masonry veneer option for the concrete pedestals of the new timber bridge as presented in report 2025-087. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. We have no bylaws. Any inquiries or announcements? Seeing none, we have a confirmatory bylaw with Councillor Robinson. Please.
Your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting on the 11th day of August 2025 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting on the 11th day of August 2025 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion.
This is just a procedural issue to get it on record.
Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting on the 11th day of August 2025 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10638-2025.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting on the 11th day of August 2025 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10638-2025. All in favor? Carried. And our final piece of business, back to you, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 6:33 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Brennan. This council adjourns at 6:33 p.m. Stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I guess the streak broke.